Welcome back to Meet the Coach. This is, Mike Mennel. I've known Mick Mennel, Michael Mennel, Mick Mennel, and everyone else, I guess, but 34 years or something. When did you move right next to us?
Man, back in the day, probably 34 when I was three or two, man. And
Yeah, so I'm 2 years older than you. So we're from Olmsted Falls, Ohio, beautiful Olmsted Falls, Ohio. Known Mick forever. He moved to a street next to us. He's now the head coach at Weber State. We'll get to that part, I guess, here, but we're talking about Olmsted Falls. But so legitimately, probably 34 years. I moved to that place 30. That would have been like 35 years ago. And you were a baby, and you played ball with my brother. You're 2 years younger than me, so you played ball with my brother who's a year younger, and we did stuff together and yada yada. So known you forever. But let's start talk, and I know your journey, but talk to us about how you got to be the head coach here with the beautiful mountains in the background from Little Olmsted Falls, Ohio, where there's not a mountain in sight.
man, it's definitely different than Ohio, that's for sure.
Right. Yeah.
But obviously, like you had, said, man, I grew up a cul-de-sac away, and obviously, I think anybody that we grew up with, you played sports at Olmsted Falls, and I think it was a unique, obviously, community, and when you look at the longevity of Olmsted Falls, that 97 to when I graduated, we were all kind of together. Is unique. So when we all played and grew up together, was fortunate, obviously, to play for, in my opinion, one of the best head coaches ever to coach in the state of Ohio, and Jimmy Ryan.
You know what? As you're saying this, and I should have worn my state championship ring from 2000.
I know, man.
But one time, maybe it would have made like sense for 5 seconds to happen.
And everybody
Oh, God, it's somewhere in the closet back here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So obviously played for him, and then obviously went to BW right down the road. Was able to have a good career there, and a cup of, like I say, the smallest cup of coffee with the Brownies. But from there, got into coaching, and my dad, who you know very well, man,
Always knew him as a coach.
kind of got me into this whole thing. Learned a lot from work ethic, just the passion for football. And then obviously did a high school year because I was still trying to get that arena thing, just like everybody was during that time, and nobody knew financially how bad it was.
Where'd you coach high school? Were you at Falls?
I was at Brookside with Keith Grabowski, man.
That makes sense.
Crazy.
That's funny.
But
I didn't know that part.
It was a hell of an experience. It got me into coaching, and then my DC at BW at the time, Adam Howard, got the head job at Notre Dame. And started a program. And man,
so what year was that?
2012.
2012 program. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, it was me, Adam Reichel, and TY, who you know very well.
I Stillman, my brother-in-law.
Yeah, obviously never stop program ever again, but great experience. And worked there for 13 years. Worked my way up from GA to obviously position OC, and in the final 2 years head coach, and then had a really good opportunity to come out west. I never thought I'd leave the state of Ohio, but had a great opportunity, obviously, to join the staff out here at Weber, and was blessed to obviously take over the reins this past December.
Yeah. All right. So talk to us about just the difference between Notre Dame College, Division II head coach, and then now you take over here, FCS, high-level FCS program at Weber State. What's the difference in how you've approached these? Because both programs, you were there, right? And now you up into that head seat. How did you approach these differently? And what did you learn from Notre Dame that's going to make you better here? Not that you weren't great, because you were great at Notre Dame. But
I don't know. You learn by trial and error, right? And that those 2 years at Notre Dame, to obviously go be in that seat, make those judgment calls, how to build a culture. You learn. You obviously don't hit everything right, and you learn from your mistakes. And obviously, I think I'm a little bit better equipped, just doing it once already. And then obviously the support staff here at Weber is second to none. And people's like, oh, how hard is it? I'm like, it's actually better because I got so many more people to help me with the auxiliary stuff. And like I said, when I got the job, I'm surrounded by great men of character, and that makes my job really easy.
Sure. How this now changing? You guys had success last year, right? You guys were really good. How have you adjusted, or what have you changed from culture in December to then January, now that you're head coach? Or have you just kind of rode the wave and added a little spice on it your way?
I think it's just riding the wave because, like I tell, a bunch of people, recruits, parents, um, people within the program. I chose the same reasons you want to choose here because it's because of the people, it's because of the culture. So there wasn't too much tweaking to do. Coach Hill did a fantastic job of building this thing from, 2 wins 10 years ago to now being in the top 10 perennially. So
Yeah.
I would be, talking out of my mouth, like, why'd you choose here? Well, I chose here because of this, and then go ahead and change it. It just wasn't me, but you got to add a little bit of your mentality, your flavor, to this, or it's obviously not your deal at the
Yeah.
end of the day. So just adding a little bit of me, which obviously is the same as Coach Hill, basically.
Sure. What was your relationship to him before coming there?
Very brief. We actually got connected through a friend, and at the end of the day, got on Zoom and talked ball and talked philosophy, and like I told people, my biggest thing is, who am I going to work with? Can I work with them? Are they good people? And then
Yeah.
do we have a chance to win year in and year out at the highest level? And obviously, if you win the Big Sky, you're a pretty darn good team in the country. I mean, this
Oh, yeah.
conference is big time.
Yeah. And it's such the relationship is.
Mhm.
You knew somebody who introed you guys, had a convo, you did well in the convo, obviously, for him to approach you on it or whatever. And that's how 99.9% of opportunities happen, especially in football.
Yeah, definitely. It's not the football scoop, man. It's who you know and how well you connect with people.
How many cold emails I sent in 2007 when I was a unpaid coach at Oberlin College, trying to get somebody to pay me a cent, one cent, or a GA job was really what I was
And
looking
now you're like, if it posted, probably already filled.
probably failed, probably, not worth your time. Occasionally, I guess it happens, but like 1% of the time, maybe. That's probably
Yeah, you gotta
high.
get lucky for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. What is there anything specifically you worked on this off season?
Uh, just obviously implementing a little bit of my style of stuff. Like I said, we're not going to reinvent the wheel here. They had
Yeah.
a lot of good things, but it was more, how do we lead player led a little bit more for me. Want to make it their own. So just obviously putting that together, and doing
Cool.
it.
How do
my
you do that? Like what sort of things have you done to do that?
Well, I think it's all about, all right, how do we identify our leaders, and then how do we, promote our leadership? So I think it's that leadership council, giving them the tools to be better leaders, explaining why we're doing some things just because they've done it here for 10 years the same way. And those little nuance changes, all right, this is why I believe that, will help. And then obviously those leaders that are in the leadership were selected by the position. So we have every position group that is represented in that leadership council. So they have a voice, and when that group maybe not seeing it eye to eye, they'll bring that to the table when we can get that obviously fixed.
Sure. So is the corner group or the DB group, however you guys have it set up there, they vote on who's the leader too? That's
Yep.
how I like that.
Yep. Yeah. So
Was there any issues with that where guys were like, that's bullshit, I should have been that?
no, man, that's them. This is, like I said, this is their team, and how they want to operate it. I just keep the train on the tracks, and obviously be that final decision maker. But at the end of the day, I think you get a little bit more invested when you're obviously invested into what you're trying to do here.
Have you seen more from them then too in the accountability and the investment aspect?
I think the accountability and the investment was at a high level. I think them being more vocal has changed a little bit. Where it's not always has to be a coach, man. I think, like we were brought up, man, your program is your players. So the more you can promote them and their brand, the better off. I think your program, obviously, if you recruit the right character people, you'll be in really good shape.
Are you guys a place that's, I don't know how much portal you did. I assume you did some. I don't know
Got to
if you-
do a little bit, right?
yeah, I don't know if you went 60 guys like maybe some other places, or
No.
if you did a handful. But what's kind of your philosophy portal wise from recruiting? And it's been, handful of years now that we've been doing this.
Yeah, so my philosophy is pretty easy. One, do we have a need there? And do we have a prior relationship with recruiting that player before? And if it checks those two boxes, we look at, all right, does it stunt the growth of a younger player that we've already invested time with? If all three of those boxes are checked, we'll dabble in the portal. If two of those boxes are checked, then we're probably not in on that, because we really want that young person that we've already invested time, effort, energy, and to obviously take over that next step. The hardest thing is if you get multiple for one position, then you're probably going to have to dabble a little bit just to stay, older in that position.
Sure. Yeah, I think everyone's got a different philosophy when it
Yeah.
comes to portal. It's always interesting to hear, especially at the FCS level, like what's your mindset on it? There's a lot of bounce backs. There's a lot of guys you recruited and maybe lost to somebody, and now they're in the portal 6
For
months.
sure. I think it's where you're at in the state of your program more than anything. Are you trying to build? Are you trying to, save that last year and kind of kick swing and make one final ditch effort, or are you in a really good situation like I am, and you're just trying to enhance maybe one or two positions that maybe you lost a kid and your younger guys 2 or 3 years away or 1 year away, and he just needs that buffer area so he can play confident and fluid throughout that situation.
Sure. Are any of the portal guys on your leadership council, like any mid-year guys?
No, they got to earn their they can't even get a single digit here. You got to earn that.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Yeah.
But how do you earn it? Is it in game, or they couldn't earn it in the spring, or could they do it in the summer? Like
Three criteria. No, man, you gotta do it when it counts, right? Like
sure, yeah.
you could be a cat and not play on games, and what have you done? So we got a criteria, and it's obviously performance based, academic, and social. You gotta check all three of those boxes to obviously earn that. So you don't even have to be a cat, but if you do well academically, you're a special teams dude, and you obviously do well socially off the field, man. We'll investigate that.
Interesting. I like it. I mean, I by the way, if I was getting recruited, I of course would want a single digit, and I would not like that.
Right? Absolutely.
But I get it. I think it makes sense, and I think certain things should be earned.
Yeah, I mean, how this business is, man. I think you try to replicate what life is, whether you're trying to get to the next level NFL or you're just going into a job field that, hey, man, my job as a coach is to prepare you for that, man. If I just reward you right off the jump for not doing anything, that's not how things work.
No doubt. What things do you do to measure success for you as a coach? And obviously different as a position coach, as a coordinator, than it is a head coach. But how do you measure success, and how do you measure, like, I need to improve that versus this was a good job?
Well, I think it's always about self-reflection, right? At the end of the day, if you don't self-reflect on good and bad, then you're going to fall short, in my personal opinion. So just starting there, am I doing everything I can for these kids? Just not football wise, but off the field wise. Am I trying to better their lives? With this NLI, it's different, but as long as you're staying within the rules and a guy can help himself financially, I think that's one of the bonuses to the NLI stuff. But other than that, wins and losses, obviously, me, my family, how we were brought up, man. We're here to win games, man, at the end of the day. And we're ultimately judged on that. So I think it's a daily check for that rather than an overall view. If we did everything we could throughout the week and we practice well, we put our guys in position to be successful, then I think we just got to recruit better at the end of the day. So I think it goes back to just being self-aware of what you're doing and where you're putting your program at.
Are you, from a head coach standpoint now, are you a guy who feels like you're more of a micromanager, or are you like, let me hire the dudes and let them figure that shit out? And if they can't figure it out, I'll get somebody else in here.
Certain aspects, right?
I'd imagine. I don't, I've never worked with you,
sure.
but I'd imagine that's part of your personality. Yeah.
For sure. No, the offense, the quarterbacking, that's my deal. I got into this thing to coach. I'm gonna still coach. But defensively, off the field stuff, I trust. If you hire a guy, you should trust him to do his job.
Yeah.
And giving them free time, like they don't have to be in the office all the time. I think if you're efficient with your work, your family is the most important thing, because at the end of the day, you'll never get those days back with your kids, your family. I want those guys to obviously have that in the back of their mind. But they got to obviously get the job done here at work. And my guys just do a fantastic job of that.
Big time.
It's one of the great things I learned from obviously Coach Hill last year. It's just, you don't have to be in the office all the time. Now I still do, but you don't have to.
Yeah. Well, and guys, you've worked with guys, I'm sure, that are there at the office to be at the office.
Mhm.
They're not productive.
No.
And there's days we need to be there until midnight. And there's
For
days
sure.
you could have left at 8:30, or you could have, gone back and had dinner and come back, or,
Yeah.
you know how that is. And a lot, I might have worked with guys who were like, I remember one time, I won't say his name. I remember this dude, this was like 7:30 in the off season. And he was like, we saw on his screen, he was like on fantasy baseball. I'm like, get your ass home, bro.
Yeah. What are you doing?
We got a couple of kids. Get home, go hang out with the family. Like,
Right.
yeah.
At the end of the day, man, they don't see you much in the season. So, when you got an opportunity off season, man, get your work done and get the heck out of here. And that's funny. We don't work on Sundays in the office. And that's something I got from obviously Coach Hill, and we were really successful. But at the end of the day, you don't have to be here on Sundays. You can grade the film, work from home, and be ready to go Monday, rejuvenize and get a good night's sleep.
Interesting. So you guys are on Monday, watch film with the players.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you like that? I mean, you're gonna keep that?
Oh yeah, I love it, because for me, it's probably going to be more beneficial. I can sit in my office by myself and obviously watch the previous game, and then obviously look forward to the next opponent without being distracted with meetings, people, issues, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's really good. And like I said, it breaks up the week that it's a new week, because you're at home with your family, eating dinner throughout the day. You can obviously go back and forth, and those guys do a really good job of that.
Interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
Last one. I always finish with this one. Best coaching advice you've gotten.
I want to say don't get married right away. But
You are married, right?
Yeah, I'm married at 36. I got married to obviously my beautiful wife last year. But I would say, don't expect to make a lot of money early on. I think you gotta understand that there's a tier system, and obviously if you're fortunate and lucky to obviously skip a couple of tiers, I think that's huge. But for me, it shouldn't be about coaching. Shouldn't be about money. It should be obviously about having a passion to coach this great game, and then obviously influence young people. And if those two check the box, I think it's for those guys. And expect to work long hours, man. If you want to be good at it, you got to put in the time. But yeah, that would be my best advice to young coaches.
What did you make that first gig at Notre Dame College as a GA?
6 months free, and then I think it was like $800 a month. It was.
That's more than I made as a GA at Ashland. I made 6.
I know, right? We used to have horror stories. You went to those recruiting nights just to get free food.
You're not lying, dude. I'd sleep there. It was bad, but you learn a ton. I loved it at the time. There were things I didn't love, obviously, but generally speaking, loved it. Glad I did it now, 15 years later. But
yeah,
interesting. Well, cool. I appreciate you. Great to catch up, talk a little McMennel, Weber State football. Thanks for jumping on with me.
No, man, I appreciate you having me, Pat.